Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 41, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of some of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Folks, let me tell you about Patriot Home Services, a reliable company who stands by their work and comes in on time and on budget. Patriot Home Services is located in the Woodlands, Texas, and offers a wide array of services. Cody Dawson, the owner, is a hands-on contractor who will follow through on your project and will leave you having perhaps the best contracting experience you've ever had. Whether you need home additions, remodels, outdoor patios and kitchens, flooring, painting, and much more. One call does it all. Patriot Home Services, 720-745-2568, or visit them online at patriothomeservicesllc.com. That's patriothomeservicesllc.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. It's not every day that you get to sit down and speak with a filmmaker, a director, a producer, a writer. Christopher Martini has worked for over 20 years in the film production and as an editor. His films have played at hundreds of domestic and international film festivals, winning numerous awards, including Best Film and Best Director. Christopher's award-winning short film, The Stone Child, was the winner of Channel 13's Real Shorts contest and aired on PBS Channel 13 in New York City. Chris wrote, directed, and starred in his first feature, Trooper, winning multiple awards and a glowing review in the Huffington Post. Hailed by veterans of all wars, Trooper was distributed through the Army and Air Force Exchange Service and Cinema on Demand. Christopher has recently been directing music videos. Let's talk about Heroes. For Ryan Weaver, starring Medal of Honor recipient Don Jenkins, played on CMT, as well as MOH for the band Blackbird Anthem. Also starring Don Jenkins, is currently in post-production. Chris is in pre-production on Dear Mom for combat veteran singer-songwriter Shannon Book, honoring Gold Star mothers to be shot in San Antonio, Texas. Chris is the owner of Triple Martini Productions. He lives in Brooklyn, New York, with his wife Liz, their son Aiden, and their dog Stella. With that, we are honored to be joined by Christopher Martini. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Brian. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. You are a champion, sir, and the veteran and the first responder community appreciates everything you do. And I see you are even supporting today by wearing your red shirt on this Friday.
That's right. Remember, everyone deployed. Red Friday, every day actually. And I've recently been rucking every Friday, but today I decided not to ruck, and that's probably the good thing for my back. So.
And it's a good thing for me, too, because we get to sit down and have an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. And if you were on that ruck today, maybe we would not inspire the folks that we're going to reach today during this podcast. And so for that, I'm thankful. We've got so much to talk about here, Christopher. And I tell you what, we got to get started because, again, there's so much value out there to be added. Now, you were born in Dallas. And you did move around a lot as a child. Explain what it was like to grow up.
So I was born in Dallas, Texas. My mother was a parole officer, and my dad is a sculptor from Italy. So two different worlds colliding. My stepfather is an actor from the 70s. He was on the Rockford Files. So, being a family in the film business, he played Angel in the Rockford Files. But Family in the film business, so we moved around a lot. LA, we went up to Vancouver, Canada. I went to NY Film School. Moved around Utah, Miami, uh, and then after 9/11, came back to New York, and I pretty much have been here since, back in New York City. Basically because after 9/11, I missed it tremendously, and I felt, I wanted to be in this city. If change was going to happen, I wanted to be right in the middle of it.
Interesting. And it takes a special person, to live in New York, especially Brooklyn. It's just so big, and it's straight up big skyscrapers and mass transit and all that stuff. What's it like getting around the town?
Yeah, my wife and I are trying to get out of Brooklyn. To be honest with you, I think you know I recently came out as a conservative in the film industry, and amongst my friends and family, it doesn't seem like the right place for me. And I think the city has changed a lot. My father came to New York in the 70s as an artist, and it was just a different city back then. I think all the true artists, all the true creative people fled the city for upstate New York, and so I think it's a different city. It's more corporate now. It feels to me often a little bit like a strip mall, as opposed to old school New York, where the small businesses are all around you. Now it seems like they've disappeared. And so, as a filmmaker, I don't have too many reasons to want to be here anymore. I feel like, for me personally, there are other states that are offering, more freedom than New Yorkers have at the moment, and so I'm drawn towards the red states. I don't know if we'll move there, but yeah, I definitely, it's time to leave, I think.
Having come out as a conservative, and I know that's even sad to say because, I mean, what's wrong with being a conservative in America in 2022? However, the industry that you are in seems to maybe not dwell with folks that may be conservative, especially the folks from Hollywood. What's it like? Do you get treated any different for being, say, a conservative than being, say, a liberal or a Democrat from the state from the state you're in?
For a long time, I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't even, I didn't have any awareness that there was such a disdain for conservatives in the film business. Even having grown up in the film business, um, I had no knowledge that this even existed. So I grew up in this environment, but you know, as I started my process of realization about politics and what was going on in the United States, and how we're losing some of our traditional American values that make this country so great. That was a process of realization that really started for me after 9/11. And then it was 9/11 that made me want to do a film about veterans, because I couldn't believe how quickly so many people enlisted right after 9/11. And the whole thing with the Iraq war, and Afghanistan, and I started to see a lot of uh, you know disdain from the left towards conservatives. But in the film industry, I didn't really know what was going on. I always, I would hear remarks. I would feel, that they didn't love this country in the way that I loved this country. And and then slowly I figured out that, that I'm the minority, and in amongst that community, and I have to keep my mouth shut if I want to keep my job. And now I just think that that's absolutely ridiculous. And as anyone that works in a living that uses freedom of expression to make your living and chooses to remain in silence, they don't understand what so many people fought and died for. So
Mhm.
I refuse to be that guy. But I think it's different for actors than it is for a filmmaker. I mean, as a filmmaker, it excites me. This really excites me because I can use this. I don't want to polarize people, but I feel like it's good to have a community. And I have a lot of friends in the military community and the law enforcement community that support me. So that's what you need. A filmmaker needs a community, and by doing this, I've sort of engaged more and become closer in that community, and it helps.
I spoke to a group of high school students a couple days ago here in Texas, and our country is as divided as it's ever been. And I told them one thing. I said, folks, look, we need to get our country back as a cohesive unit. Enough of the politics and the grandstanding. We are Americans. We need to be proud to be Americans. We need to support our American culture, and we are letting the I don't know how many 400 or 500 members of Congress, Senate, and all the higher levels, all the way up to the President of the United States, dictate the lives of 350 million Americans. And until we, the people, stand up and say, guys, we are the people, you need to serve the American people instead of grandstanding and doing what you think is right for you, we will never recapture the greatness of America and keep that Liberty Bell ringing that has been ringing for so many years and had so much bloodshed to keep us free and prosperous. But this program is about you today, and I just wanted to say that we can all come together, and folks need to start allowing people to share a seat at the same table and have a conversation, a simple conversation without yelling and calling names and slander and all this other stuff, and find that one commonality out there that you may have with somebody that you disagree with, and you're going to sit down and you're going to find out you have a lot more in common with that person than you would have ever imagined. But again, today's about you, and I want to move on to the director's chair.
I just
The
can
director's
I
chair.
just
Yeah,
speak
yeah,
on
yeah,
what you
yeah.
just said really quick?
Sure, sure,
You know,
sure.
um, you know, we're in really interesting times right now where you know, it's the tribalism that's going on is not
Mhm.
good for the country, but at the same time, we're in a really interesting place where, as Republicans, as conservatives, I don't know how we're going to be able to take back our country without playing the same game that they play. And I think that in some ways that we need to be just as ruthless as they are to take back our country. And I mean, take the House, the Senate, the presidency, and start saving, you know the institutions that we hold dear. So I think that ultimately we need to sit at the same table, but it's going to require a greater effort to get back to the place that we need to be. I don't know. I think we need conservatives need to step it up a little bit.
I agree, and I'm with you, and I stand with you on that statement. And when is enough going to be enough? I wake up yesterday, the United States Air Force Academy. You can no longer say mom and dad. I mean, where are we? What is going on?
Yeah, the other countries are laughing. I think. but yeah, okay. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Yeah,
I'll talk about this later, but I have a
yeah.
movie coming out called The Relentless Patriot, and I think that's exactly what we need to be is relentless, because conservatives have always been, you know, nice, in some, and almost passive in a way. And I think we really need to step it up. And I hate to say it, but they're playing dirty. We have to play the game also. Maybe not dirty, but we just have to go all in.
So many, folks, the contributors to society, the hardworking American class, blue collar workers, the taxpayers, middle America, if you will. I mean, we've always just gotten up and provided for our families and worked hard and have ignored so many politics because it's exhausting. And so I think that's how we've gotten so far down this rabbit hole to where we are just trying to figure out a way to crawl out of it. And you're right. It does take people to stand up and start fighting back and doing it in an honorable way, without destroying anything and, by
No, no,
setting,
all of this is winning the cultural war.
mhm.
This It's not about violence or anything like that. It's about being relentless in protecting our values.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
think
agree.
conservatives. There's I would say almost the majority are people of faith. So we're not going to go. That's what I'm saying. We've always been passive.
Mhm.
We're not going to go do those things. And but the things that we can do, we need to do at a greater intensity.
Yeah, it's getting involved and being a good community leader and serving, if you will. I would like to talk to you about the film industry and about making movies because there's so many folks out there that are wondering, like, what's the day in the life like? Take me to the director's chair. What type of a job is that? Is it a job to where you're constantly pointing, directing, and perhaps raising your voice to try to get all these people on the same page? Or is it so well structured and managed that you could just really sit back and just watch this production unfold?
So, it really depends if you're directing your own script or if you're directing somebody else's script. It depends on the situation. But if it, to sum it all up, one of my favorite filmmakers, Elia Kazan, in his memoir, he wrote, this was the best description of a director that I think encompasses all of that, whether you're directing for somebody else or it's your own material. Um, the director's job is, when you're filming, to make sure that when you film every scene that you film in that movie, you have to find the you know the golden nugget in each scene. So, in other words, if you're out, you've got a million scenes for this movie that you have to make, and you're out there in the trenches directing everyone. In that moment, you can't stop filming. You can't go to the next location until you've found something miraculous, marvelous, beautiful in that scene, whether it's a line or the way that the actor moves or the way that the light hits their face, or just, or something that's so funny that has the crew, falling on the floor laughing. You have to find that golden nugget. If you haven't found that in that scene, then you failed as a director, and you shouldn't move on to the next scene. You have to stay and keep filming. I mean, that to me summed up everything, because that's the job of a director, is you know the story, and you know that it's a good story that has a beginning, middle, and end, that has a protagonist that's going after a desire, and there's obstacles that stops him or her from getting that. You've chosen that story. Now you're filming. Now you're the director. It's your job to get that story on screen. So you have to find that golden nugget. You have to be the guy that utilizes every crew member, every actor to find that goal. And if it's raining, you got to keep filming. You got to use the rain. If the actor is giving you problems, then you have to find a way to either lead that actor into a good place where he can do the scene, or regardless, you have to get him there. So it's like the conductor of an orchestra, and but you have a job, and it's to get that magical thing in every moment. That's how I would best describe it.
Yeah.
It's the most difficult thing, because you're dealing with so many different elements, and as soon as you make a movie, everything comes up against you. And this is why I love it, because it's so difficult at times.
Yeah, it's challenging, and it's an art. It really is. And when I watch movies, it they flow so well. They flow so well, and you're like, oh wow, how long did it take to shoot that? You're thinking, just as a regular guy who's just, who works, say, in the lumber industry, doesn't know anything about films. And he's like, oh, wow, that looks pretty easy to do. But we all know it's not. There's a lot of cut and paste going on there. How long does it take to make a movie? Like, say, for an example, Trooper. Okay, this is something that you did that is beautiful.
I've seen that one.
It's beautiful. Okay, how long did something like this take?
Well, Trooper took a lot longer. Do you want to talk about a normal movie or Trooper?
Okay, give me two examples. Let's talk about a normal movie, and then tell me about Trooper on how long it took to get that done.
Okay, so if you're writing the script could take a year or more. It could take a year or more to get financing for that movie. Often more than a couple of years. I mean, financing is the hardest part, finding the money. The filming of it, it can be shot, a feature film can be shot in, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, the editing could go on for a year or more. The whole post-production stage could go on, for a year and a half, editing, sound mixing, color correction. And then there's you're talking another year of film festivals, and distribution. So a film could take up a good 5 years, of your life. If you're lucky, maybe a couple of years, but it really depends. It depends if you have a Hollywood studio behind you, if you have a whole team for each of these phases. It's not going to take you long. If you're doing it like I make films on shoestrings, it could take a very long time. So, but either way, and I was talking about this yesterday on another interview, is that the most important step in making a movie is choosing the right story, and because you're going to be living it with it for 5 years of your life, or 2 to 5 years. So that's why I love making comedies, because sometimes it's better to live with a comedy for so long, something that you can laugh about, that's going to make the audience laugh. But regardless, I think if you're going to go the Hollywood route, fine. If you're going to go the woke route, there's 2 avenues that you can go. The woke route is the film festivals, the the cultural community, all of the, the grants and all that kind of stuff. So that really isn't for me anymore, and neither is the Hollywood route. So I'm going to be sort of carving a new path, in the middle, I think.
Trooper. Let's go to Trooper and explain how long that movie took to put together.
Oh. Okay, so Trooper was really, a good portion of my life, So I think I started writing. That's it. Yeah, Trooper.
Guys,
so
this is a must watch too, by the way.
Trooper started when I was editing a documentary on the Gulf War. And that's when I really, looking at combat footage, seeing some really horrific things. That's when that was the first door opening for me to the veteran community, where I really realized the issues, the health problems, the labyrinth at the VA, the apathetic public, the lack of deconditioning, with soldiers coming home with PTSD, thanks, see ya, and that's when it really, everything started. And I was, I wanted to make a film about this. So I started writing the script in 2006.
Wow.
I just, I had been doing some editing on some, bigger movies, and the producer forgot to pay me, or he didn't pay me like 3 or 4 checks in a row. So I had this big sum of money, and the Trooper had just won, or had got some recognition in Italy at a script competition, and that was sort of the first film festival recognition that I ever got. So I felt really good about that, and I felt like I should make it. So I used that chunk of money, and I started shooting Trooper in about 2008. And
Wow.
so we shot it incredibly quick. We shot it in 14 days. And that's roughly, there were some days where we were shooting 12 pages a day. And to give you an idea, it's a page a minute in a movie. One page of screenplay equals a minute of screen time. TV shows with giant crews are doing about 6 pages a day, and we were doing 12 pages a day with like a crew of like 15 people. No permits, shooting on the street. I was acting and directing. If you look at the behind the scenes documentary on the DVD, you can see how hellish it was for me. A little slice of that. But so now this is where Trooper gets interesting, is because the ending of Trooper originally, and I would say this was the second half of the movie, is I have my character turning into this like anti-war type soldier, and after hanging around veterans while making this movie, I realized there's no way in hell I want to depict that kind of soldier. So I cut out half of the movie. But I cut out half the movie, and I spent another year and a half reshooting half of the movie with a smaller crew, and where I started shooting myself, like, operating camera and everything. But, and then, then it was a long road for distribution. But we had really good screenings. I knew that we had something. So I would say from like 2006 to 2012 is when I really stopped. So 6 years.
That is remarkable, to not lose that drive and that idea, and to stay with it for so long, because you believed in it. It's something you believed in. And
well, sorry to cut in. The reason there were 2 screenings that really said, like, helped me realize that I have to keep going. I have to get this movie out, seen somehow. is we had one screening at the Actors Studio in New York with, really prestigious actors, people in the film industry. And they were laughing, they were crying. And this was a really kind of left wing audience. And then I would go screen it for like Vietnam vets, guys missing their legs, special forces guys, World War II veterans, and they're crying, they're laughing, and they're coming up to me and saying, you told our story like we've never seen it before. And so when you hear, I would say mostly from the military audience, them saying that to me gave me a lot of fuel to keep going. And I knew that even though it was a low budget, dark, gritty guerrilla film, that we had something special. There was something in there that people saw.
It's good
That's
that
what
you had that. It's good that you had that encouragement too from the veteran community, and you know that drive and that knowing that you are doing this to save lives. Ultimately,
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a long road, but well worth it.
now I the next part of this question I think is very important for people to understand about you. Um, you are not a veteran. Your grandfather did serve in World War II, but you are not a veteran. But you have become a champion in the veteran and first responder community. And the way I always say it is this: look, you don't need to be in the military to serve your country. God puts things on our hearts and in our path all the time that we are called to serve on. And you have served our country in a different way. And you are actively serving our country by telling the stories of our nation's heroes in a vulnerable and at risk population, the veteran community, who had oftentimes are ignored by so many people and by so many institutions. But you have kind of dedicated your life to really giving back to the veteran and first responder community. You've been shooting music videos with folks like Ryan Weaver and Blackbird Anthem, and I believe it's Adam Martin and Medal of Honor recipient Don Jenkins. Tell me what it's like to work with warriors like this that have sacrificed so much for our country. What does it give you?
Um, I would say overwhelmingly that the people of the military, and I would also say the people of law enforcement, are some of the most genuine, kind, giving, open-hearted people that I've ever met. And I think that, you know, and diverse. Like I've screened my film for so many veteran groups, and they're from every walk of life, every race. It's just so. But I have a profound respect for what they did. I didn't sign up. And so I'm eternally grateful for what they do. It's we need to keep the enlistment process going. And in the law enforcement community, we're losing cops at record numbers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what the sad thing is, people don't understand really what they do. They don't understand what our veterans have been through. They don't understand what cops do. I mean, they say they do. They'll post on Veterans Day, but what else, what else are you doing? What else are you saying other than once a year, and I recently heard someone, when I was talking about gold star families, this person didn't know what a gold star was. They thought it was, a ribbon, or a medal like that a general would get or something. And so there's it drives me crazy. It's crazy to think that and so many of our youth just don't know how we got to the place that we got to, and so what am I trying to say here? I think there's a lot to do to open people's eyes still about what veterans have been through, and I think that we're all living off of the fruits of the World War II generation, and we live in a paradise. Look at Iran, like right now, rioting in the streets. Like I'll say it every day of my life. We do not know how good we have it, and it's because of our military, and it's because of our law enforcement keeping this country safe. And so, after Trooper, I told myself I do not want to make another veteran film. I don't want to be pigeonholed in that genre. But now that I see what's going on, I want to, this is a story that needs to be told over and over again.
There are 20.2 million American veterans in this country. And what you are doing right now is honorable. You are giving, like I said, and I mean this, a vulnerable and at-risk population, sincerely. And that doesn't mean that they, are anything less. It just means that this is a population that a lot of the times is force-fed pills and falls to alcohol and drug abuse because of post-traumatic stress and everything else that life has thrown these veterans and these first responders' way. And it oftentimes they get down on their knees and they are feeling hopeless and they are feeling helpless and they have no one to turn to, and their alpha-centric lifestyle that they lead, that they can't show weakness. However, you have been called to serve in a way to give the voiceless a voice through your work. And you are saving lives, and you are motivating, and you are inspiring so many veterans through the music videos, through the movies. So I know you are doing what God has intended for you to do, and you are walking that walk. And it is an honorable walk. And it's not an easy job to do. So again, I want to thank you for everything that you are doing in the veteran and the first responder community. And this leads me to my next question. What is the proudest moment of your career?
It was a screening of Trooper in I think it was Orlando, Florida, for the Military Writers Society of America, and it was the first time that I screened the Trooper for a military audience. It was my first real interaction with that community, with the military community. And, as I said, there were guys, that had lost their legs, the special forces guys that had been through hell and back in Vietnam. And, there were some Iraq Gulf War veterans in there also. I think it was the proudest moment of my career was the response after that screening. To see those guys, because I watched them during the film. I don't look at my movie. I watch the audience, and to see laughter, to see tears, to see them engage, and then have them come up to me after. It was very cathartic, because I really didn't know how the military community would react to the film. And so I guess what it told me is that, that I had good intentions, and to see those good intentions realized. Like there's so many Hollywood movies that just take the veteran story and just like completely flip it around for political reasons. Like I had there's a veteran in my movie who put me in touch with another guy. They were both involved with the movie The Green Zone. So it was Monty Gonzalez, a Special Forces Ranger who was, I think, an advisor on the movie The Green Zone, where he went on Fox News talking about this, because the director, Paul Greengrass, who I guess is very left, he broke the golden rule of filmmaking, which is, I think, he betrayed the community that was involved in the film, the military community. In a similar way that, there's stories about Kevin Costner betraying the Native American community. So if you ask anyone on, Pine Ridge Reservation about Kevin Costner during Dances with Wolves, they'll tell you how he betrayed that community, whether it was making the elders stand around all day or whatever it was. But what Paul Greengrass did with The Green Zone is he led those veterans that were, one of the first the first guys that were in Iraq, the first unit to go looking for WMDs, the guys that were involved with the making of the story. He led them to believe that he was making this kind of movie that they would agree with. And then, with editing, with, all said and done, it totally flipped politically, and it became an anti-war movie. So, for me with Trooper, to have good intentions and to involve that community and value them more than my film and more than my career. And after the film, stay involved in their lives. Don't abandon them completely, And, I reach out to guys on my Facebook. If they're in need, I try to reach out and I try to help wherever I can. And sometimes the best way to help is just putting them in touch with somebody else that was in their unit, or, somebody that they can relate to, connecting them. However I can help, I often try to do whatever I can, which is within my means.
And that's how you're serving. You're serving the community. You're serving the country in a different way. Like I said, you don't need to serve in the military to serve your country. And that's what a lot of folks don't understand. We can serve our country and our community by picking up trash. We could serve our community by going down to the local fire station and thanking our firefighters. There's so many ways to serve our country. There's so many ways to better our community. And folks don't understand how easy it is to engage and to engage in a positive way. Now, what you said was very important on the proudest moment of your career, on the screening. You didn't even watch the movie. You watched the faces. You experienced raw emotions. And that right there tells me, by that experience right there alone, again, you were doing everything the right way, and you had put a product out there that you had spent a large chunk of your life making.
It had a lot. Trooper has a lot of flaws, but that's maybe what makes it great in some people's eyes. But there was like, the moments of blinding light that crept into that movie, and just to see guys that have been through it react was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's awesome. I mean, that right there, I mean, like you said, that's a heartfelt, genuine, and sincere answer that you gave me there. And I appreciate that because, there could be people that never knew that, about you. And I think that's important. I think that's a story that needs to be told as well because you're the one that's always making the stories. But sometimes people need to know what your story is too and what drives you to be the best version of yourself. Now, you live in Brooklyn, New York. Okay. What's it like raising a family in Brooklyn, New York?
It's unnecessarily stressful. I think this is part of the reason why we're trying to get out of New York right now. Is just that we're paying a higher price to live in a place that is unnecessarily stressful. That in my view, has lost its charm. And so I guess as I get older, and now that I have a child, it's more important to me to be around people that share the same values as I do, and to put my kid in a school where they're going to teach him the correct history, and
Hmm.
where they're not going to bombard him with things that are beyond his age to comprehend for their own purposes, for their own you know
Hmm.
twisted purposes. So um yeah, but um so New York it's just where we are, but I feel like in many ways I could do my thing anywhere, you
Oh,
know
absolutely.
and I want to be around the people that inspire me to elevate my elevate my values, to lift me up to a higher place,
Hmm.
and I don't feel that's happening here.
You want to be around like-minded people again that share those values, with you and your family, and want to put your family and your child in the right environment, an environment that will add value to their lives, and perhaps that value is no longer there where you're at. So, paint me a place. What is the right place for you, perhaps right now in your life?
um and I'll just add that there are good people here, you know
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I've been to New York, and it was back. I got to watch one of the final games in Yankee Stadium, so it was a while ago. In the old Yankee Stadium, I went there and shaved because I'm a big baseball guy, and I'm a stadium tour guy, and we had a great experience there. The people were nice. They were fiery, and they were firm, but they were gentlemen, and they made room on the subway when I had my family, my babies at the time, and we really enjoyed it. But again, that was quite some time ago, and I
and
understand what you mean. Yeah.
there's some good places still. Some of the old timers still have their restaurants.
Hmm.
They're hard to find, but they're still there, and we have a great time when we go out. I'm not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you got great people everywhere, but
Yeah.
again, it's like being in California, like California is beautiful and it's full of great people and it's very diverse and you have a great culture there. But also, like you were saying, the politics are kind of getting out of hand. And because you've got all this politics stuff, you've got your freedoms and your liberties being stripped from you, you have livelihoods being stripped and taken away. You have got high taxes and you're paying an outrageous amount of money to live somewhere where the value doesn't equate the cost to live there. So I
Yeah.
completely understand what you're saying. What would be a place for you to perhaps settle down and raise a family?
I would have to convince my wife, but I think Florida is a realistic place. I'm from Texas. Um, you know, as much as I would want to live in Texas, I don't know that she would want to go. You know, I think, you know, Virginia's on the table. That's a purple state, you know. We really don't know, and that's why we're here. It's a little bit of a, you know, a stuck situation, you know. But you know, we also have a kid now. It's a little hard to move around, but we'll figure it out. You know, I think.
Mhm.
Hey, and if I have to stay here a little longer, I'll do my thing anyways, and you know, try to find the light either way. You know.
You can always jump on an airplane like you do quite often and find yourself in places like Texas and Tennessee and, you know,
Well,
shooting these videos. And so
that's the other
you
thing. I'm not even working in New York. I do all my
right.
work, you know, in Texas or other
Mhm.
places. Georgia, you know, is where I've been in lately, and so and then there's always events in the military community that I like to attend. So look, I get my fill of you know, good wholesome America
Mhm.
once in a while.
This has been a great interview, and I know I have a plan here, you know, but obviously plans sometimes don't work out, and you need to go off script a lot of the times because I think this has been an interview that again will a lot of people will find some value in, and
I
we're
hope so.
we're we're running short on time here. And again, I could probably talk to you for 10 hours just on all your films, The Stone Child, Trooper, What the Night Can Do, Pastalight. There's so much value added here that you can give to people. And folks, like I said, if you haven't been on his website, go there now, triplemartiniproductions.com. You can connect with Christopher Martini. He is a great man. He is a great husband. He's a great father. He is a patriot. And he is doing everything he can to make the veteran and the first responder community a better place for everybody, and as well as our country, you know, as well, and the work he does giving back to the community. Um, I've got one final question for you, and I think this is an important one. What type of advice could you offer to our listeners? And do you have any final words of wisdom?
Hmm. You know, I want to be careful giving advice, you know, just on things that I don't really know. But you know, just I think because I come from a family of artists, you know, my father was a sculptor, my stepfather actor, my brother an actor, my sister a costume designer. I think that I can only speak to someone in the arts because it's really my only, um, you know, it's an area of expertise where I feel like giving any advice. But I would just, you know, I would just say if you're a filmmaker out there and you want to make a movie, um, you know, I would just say tell the story you want to tell and use the people you want to use, and don't you know, don't feel this pressure to make a certain kind of movie to you know, to appease the woke mob, because I think that what we're going to see is you know, a less organic type of American cinema. So that would be my advice, is because one of the things that I often think about is how we can, you know, take American cinema back to the days that it was when it was so great in the 70s, you know, like pre-Jaws, you know, the films of the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, you know, were so great, and they had no, you know, no overt sexual stuff going on, you know, no, well, the films in the 70s and 60s did, and they were still great, but it was less in your face, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it was, there was a lot more implied. And I would just say, you know, make the film that you want to make, and
Mm-hmm.
because the quality of movies is just going down the tube. It's become almost unwatchable, a lot of them, because you can tell that there's so much identity politics going into play with each movie. So that would be my advice. It would be advice to filmmakers to follow your heart and don't listen to other people. And that's what they always say. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe this sheds a little different light on it.
Folks, there you have it from a successful man, a writer, a producer, a director who has countless hours behind the camera and sitting in that director's chair, pretty much stated this: follow your own path. Don't follow the path that somebody else wants you to lead. Follow your heart, follow your intuition, do the right thing, and just march on. Forward is a motion. Christopher Martini, it has been an absolute pleasure. It has been an honor, and we sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in our veteran community, in our country, and in supporting the U.S. military and first responders.
Brian, I have to say you're really great at this. I'm looking at these chyrons, and I've done this a lot. And you got my website up there, you got the film, you got the helpline. You're really good at this, so keep doing it.
I've got to say, I don't know what's gotten into me. My life fell apart in 2016, and I've been picking up the pieces ever since. But God has led me on two missions in my entire life. One was getting the tally bill passed, and that took every ounce of strength and energy I had. And 48 days ago, I was on a mindfulness walk, and God said, literally, "You will start a podcast." And I said, "Well, I don't know how." Well, I learned in a day or two. I reached out to some folks that set me up, and I prayed on it, and all of a sudden, here I am. I'm a host on a podcast in my 48th day, and you're my 41st episode, and I have not been happier. I feel I have reinvented, recreated, rebranded myself, and it's made me a better person over these last 48 days, and I've never been happier. And for you to say that to me means everything to me in the world, especially coming from a man like yourself. I mean, that is a great compliment, and I will definitely carry that with me for a very long time.
Yeah, great questions. And if you need, I'll recommend people to have on that I think would be good. Thank you for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Again, the honor is all mine, folks. We hope you enjoyed this program tonight. Until next time, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.